Rent is so cheap in some US cities right now, it almost feels illegal. You're looking at apartments thinking, hold on, why is this cheaper than my phone bill? Did the landlord forget a zero or a wall? While everyone talks about a national housing crisis, a few places are quietly experiencing the opposite. Rents dropping, apartments staying empty, and landlords panicking like Black Friday cashiers. These aren't just affordable cities. These are places where the economy, crime, and pure chaos meet for coffee. Think shrinking towns, forgotten neighborhoods, and places where even squirrels look stressed. So today, we're counting down 10 US cities where rent is unbelievably cheap, and the real reason behind it. Like this video and subscribe, especially if you've ever opened Zillow at 2 a.m. just to emotionally cope with life, or if you want the kind of truth no realtor will ever say out loud, because it might ruin their commission. And just so we're clear, cheap rent is not always a blessing. Sometimes it's a warning. When a landlord happily hands you keys and throws in 2 free months, a gym membership, and a please don't leave fruit basket, something is going on. In some of these towns, the rent is low because half the population already escaped, the other half is thinking about it, and the raccoons have started applying for residency. Let's get into it. Number 10, Tulsa, Oklahoma. Tulsa is that city where rent is so cheap you start checking twice to make sure it's not a scam. You'll see an apartment listed for $720 a month and think, wait, is this price missing a digit? Nope. That's just Tulsa trying its best to keep you from running to Dallas like everyone else. This city sits in northeast Oklahoma with a population just under 400,000, and for the most part it's peaceful until it isn't. Tulsa has a mix of beautiful neighborhoods and areas where your GPS politely says, "Are you sure?" But the cost of living? Absolutely unbeatable. Rent here is almost half of what you'd pay in most big US cities, and landlords are practically begging people to move in. Some apartments come with deals so good you start suspecting the building is haunted. Don't worry. If anything is haunting it, it's probably just last year's utility bill. Crime in Tulsa is higher than the national average, especially when it comes to property crime. Car break-ins happen often enough that locals don't even get angry anymore. They just shake their head and say, "Welcome to Tulsa." Violent crime isn't extreme, but it's not sleep in the park safe either. This isn't a city where you walk around at 2 a.m. listening to music at full volume unless you're trying to donate your phone to the community. Still, the everyday life here is surprisingly chill. Traffic isn't crazy. Groceries won't punch your wallet, and the city has real soul, jazz history, Route 66 vibes, and locals will talk to you like they've known you forever. People who live here aren't stuck. They stay because it's stable, affordable, and stress-free. That's rare in 2025. The only thing Tulsa struggles with is keeping young people from leaving. Most of them chase bigger jobs elsewhere, so the city feels like the kid in class who's cool, but somehow always ignored. But for people who want space, quiet, and rent cheaper than therapy, Tulsa makes a very strong case. So yeah, if you're looking for the kind of place where your paycheck actually survives the month, Tulsa might be your new best friend. Not perfect, not dangerous, just perfectly affordable. Number 9, Rochester, New York. Rochester is the kind of city where rent is so cheap you start thinking you accidentally time travel back to 2006. You'll see a whole apartment going for $850 and think, is this monthly or is this per week in New York terms? But nope, Rochester refuses to participate in the New York Price Olympics. While NYC is out there selling broom closets for $2,400 a month, Rochester is like, here, take this 2-bedroom and a parking space. Just please don't move to Buffalo. Sitting in western New York along Lake Ontario, Rochester was once an industrial powerhouse. Kodak, Xerox, Bosch, and Lohm. Almost every important invention in your dad's office came from here. But then the economy said, I'm a head out, and the population slowly started doing the same. As people left, rent dropped, landlords panicked, and now the deals are so cheap they practically come with a coupon code. The funny thing? The apartments are actually nice. Not luxury Instagram influencer nice, but definitely I can breathe without going bankrupt nice. The cost of living overall is low enough that you might feel suspicious the first month you're here. You'll check the mirror like, am I being pranked? Who's paying the other half of my rent? But let's talk about the part everyone really wants to know. Crime. Rochester has some of the highest violent crime numbers in New York State, especially in certain neighborhoods. It's the kind of city where one street feels peaceful and suburban, and the next street feels like the opening scene of a detective show. Locals will warn you which blocks to avoid like they're giving directions through a minefield. Turn left, go straight, do not look down Flower City Park after dark, and whatever you do, don't stop for gas on Lyell Avenue. Still, Rochester has charm. Actual charm. Festivals everywhere, beautiful parks, waterfalls inside the city, and food that will make you question every diet you've ever tried. Plus, the people here are tough in the friendliest way. They'll survive a snowstorm, shovel your driveway, and still complain about the weather like it personally offended them. The biggest downside? The winters hit like a personal attack. If you move here, you'll learn the true meaning of lake effect snow. It doesn't fall, it ambushes. One morning you wake up and your car is gone. Not stolen, just swallowed by nature. But if you want cheap rent, real neighborhoods, and a break from the financial trauma of big city living, Rochester says, come on in. We've been waiting. Just bring a coat, and maybe a backup coat. Number 8, Shreveport, Louisiana. Shreveport is one of those cities where the rent is so cheap you will blink twice, check the listing twice, and then start wondering what's wrong with the third thing you didn't notice. You'll see a whole apartment for $700 and think, wait, is this a trick? Is this rent or a monthly donation to fix the potholes? But no, it's real. Shreveport's rent drops faster than the temperature inside a Walmart freezer aisle. Sitting up in northwest Louisiana, Shreveport used to be buzzing with oil, industry, riverfront nightlife, casinos, the whole southern city glowing with potential thing. But over the years, the economy slowed down like a movie buffering on bad Wi-Fi. Jobs dried up, population declined, and now landlords are basically standing outside with please just tour the apartment energy. That's when you know the rent is getting suspiciously affordable. But let's talk about the big elephant in the room, crime. Shreveport has one of the highest violent crime rates in the state. Some neighborhoods are calm and friendly, but others, well, let's just say you'll learn to look both ways even when you're inside your house. It's the kind of place where everyone knows the safe blocks, the unsafe blocks, and the blocks where even Google Maps won't guide you correctly. And then there's the infrastructure. The potholes in Shreveport aren't potholes, they're craters. You drive down the street, and suddenly your car performs a magic trick. Now, it's a two-piece. The roads have so much personality, they deserve their own zip codes. But hey, at least you don't need snow tires. Still, Shreveport has charm. Real, southern charm with a side of spice. The food? Dangerous. Delicious enough to end your diet and your discipline. The music? Everywhere. This is a city that raised legends and still sounds like it's practicing to produce another one. The people? Friendly in that, I don't know you, but I'll hold the door anyway way. The cost of living is low enough that you can actually breathe financially, eat out without guilt, and maybe even save money, something that's basically illegal in most American cities. But the biggest shock? The rent includes space. Actual space. Not New York closet that pretends to be a bedroom space. Real square footage. You can stretch your arms out without knocking over your lamp. You can own furniture bigger than a folding chair. You can host guests without asking them to rotate one at a time. So Shreveport may not be perfect. The economy is shaky, the crime rate is stressful, and the roads are emotionally damaging. But if you're looking for cheap rent, authentic culture, and a city that will definitely give you stories to tell, Shreveport says, we got space. Come on in. Number 7, Akron, Ohio. Akron is one of those cities where the rent is so low you start getting suspicious. You'll be scrolling Zillow like, hold on, a whole apartment for that price? With windows? And flooring? And it's not inside a storage unit. Akron rent is the kind of cheap that makes you look at your own city and feel personally betrayed. But let's be real. When rent drops this far, something else is happening behind the scenes. Akron used to be the rubber capital of the world. the home of Goodyear, Firestone, and basically every tire you've ever cursed at on the side of the road. The city was booming with factories, good-paying jobs, and middle-class families buying homes like they were on sale. Fast forward to today, most of those factories are gone, jobs declined, and Akron's population has been slowly sliding downward for years. When people leave, supply goes up, demand goes down, and suddenly rent prices fall like they're trying to qualify for the Olympics. And then we have the Akron weather. If you've never experienced Ohio weather, imagine Mother Nature spinning a wheel every morning labeled rain, snow, sun, fog, regret. You can leave home in a hoodie and come back needing a canoe. It's unpredictable enough to make you feel like you're trapped inside a live-action weather simulator. Now crime. That's another piece of the puzzle. Akron has some really solid, safe neighborhoods. And then it has areas where your car will get nervous before you do. The violent crime rate is higher than the national average, and certain parts of the city can feel a little too action movie set for anyone trying to live peacefully. Not dangerous enough to run away screaming, but definitely enough to check your surroundings. Infrastructure? Mixed. Some streets are nice, some sidewalks look like they were last repaired in 1983, and some potholes are so deep you'll consider naming them. But hey, at least it keeps you awake while driving. Still, Akron isn't a bad place at its core. It's a very Ohio city, hardworking, humble, unbothered, and somehow both aging and resilient at the same time. Cost of living is low, food is underrated, and the people are friendly in that, yeah, life is tough, but we keep going kind of way. The rent here can genuinely save your wallet. We're talking real apartments, real space, real affordability. The kind where you can pay rent and still buy groceries that come from the fresh produce aisle instead of the discount bin that might fight back aisle. So Akron may not be booming like it once was, but if you want cheap living, low housing costs, and a city that stays humble while quietly rebuilding, Akron delivers. Just bring a good jacket, a sense of humor, and maybe a spare tire. Number 6, Lubbock, Texas. Lubbock is one of those cities where the rent is so cheap you start wondering if the landlord accidentally missed a few zeros or just gave up on life. You look at a 2-bedroom going for the price of a Netflix subscription and think, wow, this is either a blessing or a warning. And usually, it's a little of both. Let's talk about the elephant in the room, or rather, the dust. Lubbock is famous for dust storms so intense they deserve their own weather channel. Imagine waking up, opening your front door, and getting slapped in the face by the entire Sahara Desert. That's Lubbock. You can wash your car, walk inside, and by the time you come back out, it already looks like an artifact from ancient Egypt. Now, the reason the rent is so low isn't a mystery. Lubbock is a college city, home to Texas Tech University. And when you have a huge student population constantly coming and going, landlords start panicking during the off-season. Empty apartments mean dropped rent, discounts, free months, free parking. They will practically throw in a microwave, a gym membership, and emotional support if it means someone will sign a lease. Outside of the student bubble, Lubbock's economy is stable, but not flashy. Agriculture is king. Jobs are okay, but not booming, and the wages aren't exactly fighting to keep up with inflation. And when income stays low, the housing market stays friendly. Crime? Not the worst, but not award-winning either. Lubbock's crime rate sits noticeably above the national average, especially property crimes. So yes, the rent is cheap, but your porch decorations might disappear if you blink too long. The city layout doesn't help either. Lubbock is flat, extremely flat, like Texas' version of a Minecraft world before you build anything flat. You can see your neighbor's neighbor, and probably his cousin 3 blocks away. And the wind? It doesn't blow, it attacks. This is the only place where you'll see a trash can roll down the street, like it's trying out for the Olympics. But here's the thing, Lubbock is cheap. Really cheap. You can survive here on one paycheck, own a car, pay rent, buy groceries, and still have money left to argue with strangers on TikTok Live. So while the city may be dusty, windy, and occasionally chaotic, the affordability is real. If your goal is low rent, good tacos, and a city with enough open space to rethink all your life choices, Lubbock delivers. We're officially halfway through the countdown. If you've made it this far, you're clearly serious about avoiding the wrong moving decisions. So do me a favor, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and tap the notification bell so you never miss one of these important breakdowns. Be honest, could you live somewhere with cheap rent, no traffic, and zero Uber drivers? Drop a yes or no. I need civilization in the comments. I'm curious. All right, let's get back into it with number 5. Number 5, Macon, Georgia. Macon is the kind of city that proves rent can drop faster than your phone battery on 1%. You hop on a Zillow, see a full house renting for the price of a pair of sneakers, and immediately start questioning the entire U.S. housing market. Because Macon rent isn't cheap, it's suspiciously cheap. The reason? Macon has been dealing with one of the highest violent crime rates in the entire state of Georgia. We're talking numbers so high that even GPS systems rethink their routes. Some neighborhoods are perfectly fine, but others, let's just say the streetlights clock out early. When crime goes up and people move out, rent drops fast. Population decline has been a real thing here. People leave because of jobs, safety, or just wanting more opportunity, and when enough people move out, landlords start whispering, 2 months free, please? Economically, Macon has had its ups and downs. Once a major transportation and manufacturing hotspot, a lot of those industries slowed down over the years. Jobs still exist, hospitals, logistics, colleges, but the wages don't always match the cost of living. So even though everything is cheap, it's not always easy. And let's talk infrastructure. Macon has potholes so deep they qualify as wishing wells. You could drop a coin in one and genuinely hear it echo. The city is beautiful in parts, especially the historic homes, but other areas look like they were last renovated during the Nixon administration. Then there's the weather. Macon heat doesn't warm up. It ambushes you. This is the kind of humidity where your clothes think they're in a sauna. You take one step outside and suddenly you're sweating like you're being interrogated. But, and here's the twist, Macon is shockingly affordable. Rent for a one-bedroom averages lower than many rural towns. Houses sell for what people in California pay for a parking space. And the food? Absolutely elite. Soul food, barbecue, bakeries. Macon may test your patience, but it will bless your stomach. It's a city full of culture, music history, and some of the nicest people you'll ever meet. But yes, crime, economy, and decline are the reason the rent is low enough to make landlords cry into their spreadsheets. So if you want extremely cheap rent, southern charm, comfort food, and a city that can go from peaceful to lock your doors in one block, welcome to Macon. Number 4, Peoria, Illinois. Peoria is one of those cities where the rent is so cheap, you start checking the listing for typos. You'll see a 2-bedroom apartment for the price of a gas station sandwich and think, hold on, is this a trap? And honestly, Peoria doesn't help its case because sometimes it feels like the city is actively trying to scare people away. Let's get straight to the reason the rent is low. Population decline. Peoria has been losing people for years. Not slowly, but steadily enough that landlords are practically standing outside with "please rent this" signs. When half the people move out, you suddenly have more apartments than humans. Economics does the rest. Then we have crime rates, especially violent crime, which sit noticeably higher than the national average. Now, Peoria isn't a war zone. Don't let the internet exaggerations fool you, but it does have neighborhoods where your porch camera is doing more overtime than you are. And when crime gets bad enough, people bounce. Rent drops, and landlords start sweating like they're about to get evicted from their own spreadsheets. Economically, Peoria used to be the pride of the Midwest. Home to Caterpillar, big manufacturing, solid jobs. But when big employers pulled out or downsized, opportunities shrank. And when jobs shrink, wallets shrink, and suddenly rent needs to shrink too. Now let's talk aesthetics. Peoria is the kind of place where one street looks like a postcard and the next street looks like it forgot to pay its electricity bill. Some neighborhoods are safe, clean, and extremely livable. Others feel like they were last updated when flip phones were still a thing. The weather? Classic Illinois chaos. Ice storms in the winter, humidity that feels like a wet blanket in the summer, and tornado sirens that seem way too casual about announcing doom. But here's the kicker. Peoria is weirdly affordable in a good way. Rent is cheap. Groceries are cheap. You can live comfortably here on a budget that would have you crying in most other states. Beautiful riverfront views, great food, strong community pockets, they all exist. You just have to know where to live. So yeah, Peoria has issues, crime, economic decline, inconsistent neighborhoods. But that's also why rent is falling faster than your motivation on a Monday morning. If you want affordability and don't mind a little urban chaos, Peoria might shock you in a good way. Number 3, Pine Bluff, Arkansas. Pine Bluff is one of those cities where the rent is so unbelievably cheap, you start wondering if the landlord accidentally listed it as the weekly payment instead of monthly. You look at a full house renting for the price of a haircut and think, okay, what's the catch? And Pine Bluff will happily show you the catch. Let's get straight to it. Pine Bluff has one of the highest crime rates in the entire United States. Not high for Arkansas, not high for a small city. I mean nationally high. Violent crime, property crime, you name it. Pine Bluff has spent years competing for a top spot on lists nobody wants to be on. When crime is that extreme, people move out fast. And when people move out, rent goes into free fall. Population decline has been a massive issue. Pine Bluff has lost thousands of residents over the past decade. Imagine your city losing so many people that whole blocks start looking like intro scenes from a zombie movie. Houses empty out, businesses close, and landlords start setting rent so low that you feel guilty bargaining. Economically, the city struggles. Jobs are limited, wages are low, and major industries that once kept Pine Bluff booming have shrunk or left. A shrinking economy means shrinking rent, and Pine Bluff is living proof. Then there's the environment. Pine Bluff has areas so quiet it feels peaceful, and areas so run down you swear you've stepped into a different universe. Old buildings, abandoned homes, a downtown that looks like it's been in sleep mode since 1998. It's a mix of potential and long-term neglect. But here's the surprising part. Pine Bluff has a lot of heart. Local food is incredible, the people are genuine, and the city is trying, really trying, to rebuild. There are redevelopment projects, new businesses popping up, and neighborhoods fighting for improvement. It's not all doom and gloom, but yes, the challenges are real and visible. Why is the rent so cheap? Simple. High crime plus low population plus limited job growth equals landlords in panic mode. But if you want the cheapest rent you'll ever see, Southern hospitality, and a place where your dollar stretches so far it gets tired, Pine Bluff has what you're looking for. Just make sure you pick the right neighborhood, keep your porch light on, and maybe avoid taking midnight strolls. Number 2, Decatur, Illinois. Decatur is the kind of city where rent is so low you start checking the walls for hidden messages. A 2-bedroom apartment here can cost less than your monthly snack budget. But cheap rent is never just cheap rent. It's a warning label. Let's start with the obvious. Decatur has been losing population like it's trying to win a contest. Over the last couple decades, thousands of people dipped out, and not quietly. They practically sprinted. When that many residents leave, landlords are left with more empty units than excuses, and rent drops faster than your phone battery on 1%. Why are people leaving? Well, industry collapse. Decatur was once a manufacturing giant. Big plants, steady paychecks, dependable blue-collar jobs. Then automation, outsourcing, and corporate downsizing hit the city like a truck. When factories shrink, towns shrink. Jobs left, families followed, and landlords began offering prices so low they sound illegal. Then we have the crime problem. Not the worst in Illinois, but definitely higher than the national average. You'll find neighborhoods where you feel perfectly fine, and others where you hear one firework-sounding noise and immediately hope it is a firework. Property crime especially is a headache. Porch pirates here don't walk, they train. Decatur's economy adds another twist. Wages? Low. Job options? Limited. College grads tend to grab their diploma and drive straight out of town like the police are chasing them. They're not, by the way, but sometimes it feels like everyone else is leaving too. Visually, Decatur is a mixed bag. You've got a beautiful lakefront, nice parks, and neighborhoods with real charm. Then you've got streets where the houses look like they've seen things, serious things, and haven't recovered since 2009. Let's talk positives though, because Decatur does have some. Cost of living? Insanely cheap. Community? Loyal. Food? Surprisingly good. Traffic? Basically non-existent. Everyone is gone, remember? And you'll never struggle finding parking. You could practically park a spaceship downtown and no one would care. But again, cheap rent doesn't happen without context. People aren't leaving because it's boring, though some will tell you it is. They're leaving because the economy never fully recovered, jobs didn't bounce back, and the city's population decline keeps pushing rent lower and lower. If you want extremely cheap living, quiet neighborhoods, and the ability to rent a whole house for the price of one bedroom in Chicago, Decatur is calling your name. Just know why the price is low before you sign the lease. Number 1, Brownsville, Texas. Brownsville is the king, the absolute king, of cheap rent in America right now. You'll see listings so low you genuinely think the landlord accidentally dropped a digit. A whole apartment here can cost less than what some cities charge for a closet. And before you ask, no, it's not a scam. It's Brownsville. So why is rent so unbelievably cheap? Well, Brownsville has a mix of low incomes, limited job opportunities, high poverty rates, and major population turnover. And when all those things collide, rent sinks like a rock in water. Let's start with the economy. Brownsville has jobs, yes, but not high-paying ones. The median income here is far below the national average. So landlords can't charge New York prices in a city where people are earning Sonic drive-in wages. The market forces rent down whether landlords like it or not. Then there's location. Brownsville sits at the very southern tip of Texas. Beautiful weather, palm trees, beaches nearby, but also hurricanes, humidity that feels like soup, and a border town economy that rises and falls like a seesaw. Some people love the area. Others pack their bags after one summer and say, yo, I'm not living inside an air fryer. And we need to talk crime. Brownsville isn't as dangerous as its reputation suggests, but the poverty rate contributes to elevated property crime, petty theft, and neighborhoods that fluctuate between calm and chaotic, depending on the day. Not a war zone, but definitely part of the reason rent stays low. Population dynamics? Up and down. People move in for cheap housing, then leave when they realize the job market caps out quickly. That constant churn keeps demand unstable, and unstable demand means dirt cheap rent. But here's the twist. Brownsville is kind of a sleeper city. The food? Elite. The people? Friendly. The culture? Legit beautiful. The cost of living? Laughably low. You can rent a whole house, pay your bills, get tacos, and still have money left for a hobby. Try doing that in Austin. You'll go broke by Tuesday. And don't forget SpaceX. Every time a rocket launches, half the city shakes like someone's trying to restart Brownsville manually. It's exciting, it's chaotic, and it still hasn't raised rent. So why is Brownsville number 1? Because it's the perfect storm. Cheap wages plus high poverty plus inconsistent demand plus extreme weather plus limited career growth equals rent so low it's practically on clearance. It's affordable, it's unique, it's chaotic, it's charming. And it tops the list because no other city offers rent this low and this much personality at the same time. Hold up. You enjoyed the video, didn't you? Don't lie. If you did, you officially owe the Urban Lens a subscribe. It's the law now. Go ahead, click that icon on your screen right now before I call out your hometown next week. Don't test me. I will find it. And if you already subscribed, you're safe. You're family now. I'm the Urban Lens. Thanks for watching, and remember, if your town didn't make this list, just wait. It probably will.